In a heartfelt address to the nation, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu urged protesters to put down their placards and come to the negotiating table. Said enough is enough, his voice filled with concern for the lives lost and property destroyed in the demonstrations. He also said, quote, "I hear you, I see you, and I feel your pain," acknowledging the grievances that sparked the protest. Says, but violence only hurts us all. Let's work together to build a nation where everyone can thrive, end quote. The president highlighted his administration's progress in revamping the economy, investing in infrastructure, and empowering the youth. And he said, quote, "We are making headway, but we need your support to keep moving forward." He also announced new initiatives to support citizens from student loans to digital entrepreneurship programs, where he said, "We are committed to your future and your success." In a clear and heartfelt message, President Tinubu urged Nigerians to choose dialogue over destruction, hope over fear, and unity over division. And there he said, quote, "We are in this together, Nigeria. Let's move forward, not backwards," end quote. Well, joining us to talk about the president's speech, two gentlemen, a UK solicitor who is also the NNPP chairman in Ogun State, Oluwafemi Aino. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
We also have in the studio Executive Director of Center for Social and Economic Rights, Nelson Ekujumi. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Now, the president has spoken in response to the protest that happened last week. Although some say they will continue, others are saying, we'll sheet ourselves and just look at what the president will do. But from your perspective, Nelson, the president holistically addressed the demands of these protesters.
Well, thank you very much. I think the president addressed the demands of Nigerians. When you say demands of the protesters, I saw several demands that I couldn't make a headway of.
Okay, so they were not a reflection of the minds of Nigerians? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. The president should decree a unicameral legislature. The president should increase the minimum wage from to 300,000 naira a month. Yeah. When we all know that we operate a constitutional democracy, that the stakeholders recognized by law to negotiate the national minimum wage have done their job, concluded. The National Assembly has legislated on it. The president has put an assent to it. So it's closed. The stakeholders, none of them complained. So Nigerians are happy that for the first time in the life of this country, an administration came into office and within a year has been able to increase the minimum wage by over 100%. I saw so many demands that I couldn't make a headway of. I must come. That's why when people talk about the demands of the protest, I say, which of the demands? Because I saw many. But one thing I know, I saw some persons in the protest who complained of hunger, the rising cost of food. So if you are talking to me about those demands, those are legitimate demands of not only in Nigeria, but even outside Nigeria. And I'm aligned with those demands. So, and you and I know very well that Mr. President spoke succinctly to that demand, what the government is doing, even with regards to, empowering the states. Because you and I know, like Mr. President rightly said, the federal government does not have land anywhere in Nigeria. It's the states government that controls land. Right. That let the state provide the land, will provide the necessary tools for them to produce. The president even made mention of the fact that the federal government is importing tractor from Brazil. He mentioned those countries, and that they're on the way. And we have seen, we are all witnesses when the Federal Ministry of Agriculture distributed fertilizers to the states. The president talked about the youth empowerment programs in IT. So, for me, the president was not only speaking to people who were sincerely concerned about the state of the nation. The president was speaking, because you heard it was a national broadcast.
Yes.
by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And any Nigerian, whether you are living within Nigeria or outside the shores of Nigeria, that broadcast was for you. And for me, it addressed people who didn't have the information, people who have been misinformed, people who have been, fed with all sorts of lies. And that is why you saw that some of the people who went to the protest venues, I think the protest is holding now probably maybe 3 or 4 states, said, our father has spoken. We are no longer protesting. Because one thing I've always told people in my engagement is that Mr. President is just one man. And he's not a magician. If you are looking, I watched the guests you spoke to virtually, and you were asking for time. It is only God that can speak with certainty. Man can only predict, probably. Because if I tell you, I will do this, whoever foresaw COVID-19, whoever foresaw COVID, and it locked down the whole world.
Saw COVID-19, agreed. But you have a period of time you are in office, and you said you were ready to take up the responsibility.
But not within 14 months.
And so Nigerians are saying...
It's a 4-year mandate.
Of course, it's a 4-year mandate. And they are saying that they cannot wait for that as long as you might be asking them for. So they want to know what you are doing, and they want to know how you are going about it. I believe that's a legitimate right.
Absolutely.
To ask, and that was what they did. And he responded.
Yes, absolutely. But when governments are not spirits,
of course,
governments are human beings. When they put in place plans to implement, those plans will be put in place by human beings who will sit down. There's another set of human beings who will implement it. There's another set who will monitor the implementation to ensure that the desired end is achieved.
Absolutely.
So you know that this thing takes processes. It's not a quick fix. So if you are looking for shortcuts, is a route to anarchy.
All right, let's get to our other guest, Olufemi. I know your perspective of the president's speech and some of the things that he has raised as he was speaking.
Yes, it's a misbag. Because if you read the speech, it's quite clear. This is a president who is willing to engage.
Right.
We must acknowledge that. But this is a president who is also marking his homework, saying, we did this in the last 13 months.
Did he not do it?
Well,
is that marking a script? I'm just asking.
No. It's a legitimate question.
Right.
Let me give you a legitimate answer.
Right.
He has the right to do that. And that's what he should do when speaking to the nation.
Right.
That this is what we have done so far. You need to talk about your achievement. But while you are doing that, what you are doing is that, look, you are marking your homework by saying, I've done this, I've done that, I've done exercise 2, exercise 3, exercise 4.
But how will people know what he has done?
No, that is good. Yeah. That's good. I'm not criticizing the president for that. Okay. But at the same time, this is a president who is willing to engage in a blame game by saying, look, don't let opportunistic politicians use you to cause disruption. Then, at the same time... How is
that a blame game? Because we have to be careful with our choice of words and also expatiate on whatever it is.
I agree with you.
Right.
You can say... What I'm trying to say is this, okay? There are two things. Either you engage in a blame game or you engage with the issues. There are two different things. And what the president has done is at the same time, while engaging in that blame game, he tried to engage with the issue by saying, this is what we are going to do. Some of them are being enumerated by Nelson. But the point is this. My own major concern is this. You see, when you go out there, what all these initiatives we are talking about here, Veronica, is it getting to the ordinary people? That is the issue. And I watched your interview with the earlier Dr. Maridoti. That, look, Nigerians, we are very impatient people. You've had the last 13 months to fix most of these problems. Let's forget the unreasonable demand by the protesters. Some of them are not going to happen in a jiffy, considering the fact that there is a need for legislative framework.
Absolutely.
They're asking for electoral reform, and all those things are not going to happen. Some of them are very aspirational, saying 300,000 minimum wage, a liter of petrol should go to 100 naira. You see, those are a bit aspirational and enthusiastic. But the issue we have is this. Nigeria wants food on the table. That is one fundamental issue we need to address. And how do we address that? Look, if you talk to the people in Kano, those protesters or rioters, whatever you want to call them, now, do they even understand this president's speech? That's another thing. Do we have it? It has to be interpreted in Hausa language. It has to be interpreted in Yoruba language, so that people, and the communication is very essential. The president can speak Yoruba. The deputy president can speak. The vice president can speak Hausa. They need to come out. Look, in the last 13 months, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I stand to be corrected. I've never seen the president granting an interview on a Yoruba television, communicating with ordinary people. His ministers, too, they need to follow suit. Look, yesterday I was at an NNPP event addressing these villagers in a remote village. And I asked them whether they've listened to the president's speech. They said they heard it on the radio. Now, what did he talk about? They can't. There was no response. How do we get that communication across? And the issue here...
To the grassroots.
To the grassroots. And the issue here is very, very simple.
Right.
It's just that if we are taking this academic approach to it, then we will have a problem. Number one, now they are complaining about food. Do we have a food bank where people can go? Even in United Kingdom, despite, and most of these major countries, despite the prosperity, there is still a food bank there, where ordinary people can go. They will give them milk, they will do this, they will do that. That is one. Now, most of these villagers and the ordinary people we are talking about, they are not asking for much. The microfinance, the microcredit scheme, yes, the president is talking about, despite it is a good initiative. But if you go to any of this microfinance bank, instead of you getting a loan, I'm telling you now, what they are doing is just to be helping people to print bank statements so that they can travel abroad. And if you take a loan from them, look, I'm telling you, the loans they are giving, a woman, I assisted the woman. She took 250,000 loan from a microfinance bank. She went home, she couldn't sleep. What? The next day, because she was worried about the interest they are going to charge. Now, I'm telling you, this is a real story. The next day, she went back to that microfinance bank and returned the money. That, look, I don't want this loan. The third day, the bank was asking her for 65,000 interest on that amount. The amount she has not, I'm telling you, within the money she has not even used for anything. You see, these are the issues. And most of these ordinary people, they are 25,000, 30,000. The government can guarantee the interest. So we need that. How do we get that money across to the people? And that's what they have. If you give them 5,000, they will make a judicious use of it to transform their business. And that is how you can, you see, maybe you want to call it a populist agenda or something, whereby ordinary people, because the government is doing a lot by saying, he said he has sent about 500 and something million to all the state to improve the lives of the people. Yes. But the question is that money getting to the people. And that is
where we need to begin to interrogate state governance.
And that is why you must not be an armchair leader. And the next thing has already mentioned it. You see, if you sit in your office and you are doling out instruction, that is good. But if you don't go on the feed, they will just be telling you what they call bookies. They will come and tell you, yeah, we have done it. We have constructed this road. But one day you jump in the bus and said, I want to see things myself. Then that is when the reality will dawn on you that people have just been lying through their teeth. And the president needs to, you see, the monitoring scheme is very important. Even in United Kingdom, I will tell you this as an experience. If they give a ministry 500 and something to distribute to indigent population, there is a national audit office. After a few weeks, they will go. And I'm telling you, they will carry out a forensic audit of the scheme. And they will tell you how defective it is, how effective it is, and how they need to improve. And what the president needs to do for all these initiatives to work, there is the need to monitor things, there is the need to ask for report, and there is the need for the president or his lieutenants to come out and find out why is this? We have an issue in this country. Are we communicating with ordinary people? Why are all these initiatives not getting to people? And then, you see, the policy is a statement of action. It is not written on a tablet of stone. As you go along, you review, is this working? Do we need to improve? What are the challenges we have? And that is the way to go. And that is where I have a problem, that the president needs to try and take the bull by the horn by finding out why. You see, the president used one word. He said it's pain by what is going on. Right. And any other person, if you are doing your best to improve the life of the people, and the people are still going on the streets to protest, right, no doubt you will be paid. And I align myself with that line of thought.
Okay, interesting. So obviously you're saying he needs to change his strategy moving forward,
yes,
with regards to some of the things that he said he has put in place. But I need to pick some of the things you've said and get Nelson's perspective with regards to that. He talked about the blame game that the president put forward, talking about some persons are using these people to actually protest. I wonder if you see it that way as a blame game, or he was actually pointing out what is the obvious.
Well, if you have read, I've been issuing out press statements on a daily basis based on my observation and monitoring of the protests across the country. And I can tell you for free, from even before the protests, started, the DSS warned Nigerians. I hope you remember the DSS.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Even the Nigerian police, a day to the protest, that was on 31st of July, the police PRO, Olumuyiwa Adejobi, also issued a press release from the police warning that this protest has political undertone, has violent undertones. And as at 2nd of August, when the protest started, we saw the orgy of violence in Kano. Even as at yesterday, some protesters went and attacked the church somewhere.
Yeah, in Katsina.
In Katsina, yes. So you can see that when the IG held that press briefing to update Nigerians, he made it very clear that even till this moment, the second, we are yet to identify the organizers. We only saw their councils, and we had discussions. You also saw that one of their councils, when he advised that they make it a one-day protest because of the violence that has, occurred, they disowned him and started calling him names. So that tells you clearly that this protest is with a sinister motive, the organizers, and that is why they have remained underground. And the fact is that Mr. President was not playing a blame game. He was stating the obvious. There were people who went to the protest. For example, I know people who went to the protest and said, we thought it would be like NSAS 2020, where we were eating and drinking, that I'm not coming again. There were some that went to the protest and said, why are you people just in this place? Can't you enter the street and go and do the normal? Is this a mission? Is this protest a missionary, an evangelical protest that you want to stay in the spot and live? So, the political nature of the protest is very, very... You have a presidential candidate who has been tweeting from America on X. This is somebody that will contest election. Immediately he loses election, he becomes a revolutionary. Calling for revolution. So you actually... So, is that a blame game? No. Mr. President was telling... That's why Mr. President was advising the youth. Don't be misinformed. Don't let people lie to you to satisfy their own political agenda. We have seen it's very obvious that this is a politically motivated and sinisterly orchestrated protest. You saw the protest in Kano. When I'm a product of protest, when we protest, the only thing you see with us is placards and megaphone to address. You saw protesters with sticks. The police said they arrested some of these protesters with. It's no longer a protest. It's a riot. One of the persons who has been, pouring oil into the fire has even gone ahead to tell Nigerians to stockpile food for prolonged protest. Which Nigerians are you talking to? The same people that you say are hungry. Where will they get the money to stockpile? On day 1 and day 2, we saw how they disrupted and destroyed businesses. These are the same people you say are hungry, that you are destroying and disrupting their lives. So you can see that the organizers of this protest do not have the interest of the Nigerian people at heart. If not, they won't have engaged in this destruction. You saw people with pride. I saw a milk supermarket in Kano. See the way they looted the whole place. Right. I saw a young lady crying that she went.
Well, but the government said the people have a right to a peaceful protest and it shouldn't turn violent. So it was government saying you have a right to protest, but then...
In fact, unlike Mr. President, you know, Mr. President will talk like a father because he's the father of the nation. Left to me, as a product of a protest, let them protest in the second coming of Jesus Christ. So long as their protest is within the ambit of the law, don't infringe on the rights of other persons. I saw people who were protesting in Port Harcourt blocking the highway. Don't block the highway. The right you have to protest is the right I have to pass on that road. It's the right I have not to be... I can say I'm not interested in your protest. There are several ways to address issues. Some persons are busy talking with the government now on these issues that how can we get out of it. That's also a form of a protest. So, for me, Mr. President was stating the obvious. And that is why you can see that a lot of people who would have joined the protest saw the light and they quickly backtracked that no, this protest is not about us, it's about a political agenda. So for me, it's not a blame game, it's the obvious fact.
Right. You're smiling. Perhaps you want to respond to what he said.
No.
Okay.
He's entitled to his opinion. I'm entitled to mine.
Absolutely.
But there is one narrative which, even pre-protest, the narrative has been, don't forget, somebody within this government actually blamed Peter Obi that he was the one orchestrating this and that. And then after the hue and cry, that went down. You see, in a time of hardship, leaders need to be very careful. They need to be careful with their utterances. They need to be careful with their lifestyle. Right. When people are hungry, you cannot go on as leaders to be living a flamboyant lifestyle. You have to be very careful there. Otherwise, it will send a wrong message. Look at the war going on in Ukraine. If you look at that president of that country, since the war started, have you seen him in suit? No. He has been on T-shirt. Because if he starts wearing suit, looking posh, it will send a wrong message to the people that you don't care. But by wearing that T-shirt, it seems to be identifying with the people that, look, there is a serious situation in the land. What do you see? People are saying, look, we are hungry. And there is no doubt about that. We can't, if you go to the market, a yam costs 9,000 naira, 8,000 naira. People can't even buy pepper. The soups are turning out to be bland now. Because when women go to the market, things are very expensive. Now, and some people now organize and say, look, let us send a message to these people that power rests with the people. I'm not going to turn around and say, oh, they have ulterior motive. No, that is the reality of the situation. Things gets out of hand, the protest on to riots. Well, I understand that, and nobody is in support of that. But the fundamental question we need to ask is that, are things not expensive? Are those who are working, are there any decent or living wages? That is the question. And it's a different. The president has done well by saying, okay, 70,000. But that 70,000 is a decent wage. It's not a living wage. But let's start from there, and then we move on, and then we work on it. That is important. And it is also important, too, that, you see, somebody calling protesters idiots, somebody saying, look, while you are protesting, we will be eating. All those sort of utterances can inflame the situation. That was not from the president. It's not, well, it's not from the president, but
because our focus is on the...
No, you can't isolate. Okay, you are saying it's not from the president. The person...
No, I want her to be sure.
No, the person who called you said the protesters are idiots. Is it not the vice...
The spokesperson has come out to debunk.
To debunk, okay. Okay, fair enough. What of the person who said that we will be eating...
Well, even the spokesperson has come out.
That has been debunked.
Okay, that is fine. Right. That is a very convenient way to go. But what we are saying is this, and that doesn't take up my point, that, look, some of the legislators, too, who are the representative of the people, you see, the message that is getting across, look at during the last Salah, I think some of the legislators were giving trucks of rice to distribute to the people. Was that done?
Now, that is where the question of holding people to account comes in. The role of state governors, that's the subnational, the legislators, the local governments at this point. Because if you look at what the president said, he has, when you talk about the food security, he's liaising with the subnationals who are in charge of lands to ensure that what is needed is done as it is. Absolutely. So right now, isn't it time for the people to begin to turn their attention to the state governors who have been receiving a higher revenue in terms of federal allocation, who are receiving support from the federal government right now, to understand what is being done with all of these things? And he also mentioned the National Assembly, their roles in representing the people.
Yes, thank you very much. I think one thing, part of the lessons I'm drawing from the protests is that we need to have a lot of increased engagements at all levels with our people. Then I want to implore the government to fund the NOA and the Ministry of Information. Because when you listen to some persons speaking at this protest, you know that absolutely they don't have an understanding of
how government runs.
So, and for me, it's worrisome. Part of the problems of why we have crisis in Africa is because we have a high level of illiteracy. Where somebody will just call you to come and join you to go and do something, and you are not asking questions. Where somebody will allege somebody, and you don't say, as I sit here, I have there are some information I get. Immediately you tell me, you give me those information. I take it like this, I keep it here. I'll be waiting to hear from. I won't say because you are my friend or because it aligns with my interest, then I'll say, let us take a course of action. So we need that level of engagement. Then, secondly, over time, we have repeatedly said that, look, we need to hold the governors and even the local government chairmen, accountable. You recollect during the tenure of the last administration, when the now FCT minister and former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, was busy constructing flyover, roads, and I don't know whether journalists asked him, where are you getting all these funds? Only for him to open up and said, all the allocation, all the funds that state spent on behalf of the federal government, that the federal government has refunded them. And this is what I'm using. Go and ask my... Meanwhile, as we speak, people are still asking the former governor of Delta State how you expended that of Delta State. Same thing with the former governor of Ondo State. So all the oil-producing states got that money from former President Muhammadu Buhari, and they kept mute except Wike, who was using his own. So it is for the government also to up the ante. I know they are doing quite a lot, because when people come out and say the government is not communicating, I say this society, people listen to information with a jaundiced mind. I have my mindset. So whatever you are, somebody, for example, somebody told me that President Tinubu is appointing the president, that this policy is not needed. And I say, if it is not needed, but there are Nigerians there. And if tomorrow now they appoint people, you say the president is appointing his kinsmen. Meanwhile, you won't look at the benefits of that project to the generality of Nigerians. Right. So the citizens' engagement has to be, upscaled, because I must commend President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In the heat of this whole issue, we saw the president meeting with several stakeholders. We also saw the governors, of which I, sitting down here, was also a participant at a dialogue with the governor of Lagos State. And even in my local government, in Agege, we also had citizens' engagement where there was Bale, Oba, CDA, Christian Association of Nigeria, National Union of Transport Work, market women, So I think there is need for us to continue this engagement in order to be able to enlighten and educate our people the more about the situation we are in. That this situation we are in is not unexpected, but we need to take time and allow things to take its proper shape that these are the sacrifices we have to make. But we must warn them that we all have to be vigilant. That is why in the presidential broadcast, Mr. President was talking about we. He was not talking about us, about I. It tells you clearly that this is a president that is in tune with the democratic tenets.
Okay. The president said that his government is open to dialogue. And even the Lagos State government is also saying that they are open to dialogue. Now that we have a faceless set of persons making these demands, how do we go about this dialogue?
Are you going to have a dialogue with an imaginary people when you don't even know them? How with that size is that going to happen? So that's where the intelligence comes in. We should know the people behind this protest. But there's one important thing that I'd like to mention quickly. You see, we need to cut down on bureaucracy. The president said something that for the student loan, they've disbursed about 4-point-something billion or so now to institution. But, Veronica, the $1 million question is this.
45.6 billion.
45.6 billion. The $1 million question is this. If I want that student loan today, do I even know where to go? And how do I apply? That is
online.
Well, have you been to that
and also
website?
Institutions.
And then you go to the institutions. Okay, that is fine. But the way it works is this. Okay? During all these initiatives the president talked about, if care is not taken, politicians will hijack it just for their own selfish advantage. And I'll tell you why.
And that's where people need to be vigilant.
The people need to be vigilant because during the Buhari regime, they came up with all this sure P, this P, and power, 10,000, the vice president, then going to the market, this and that. And I'll tell you, I went to Surulere, and the woman told me that every month she has been receiving maybe 30,000 from the government, one of these their social incentive schemes. Now, but when you cross over to Adodo at a local government during the election, and I asked those women, are you received? They also said, no, we don't even know. The money is not getting to them. You see, because if you are not careful and the people are not vigilant too, politicians will hijack all this initiative for their own selfish advantage. We have to be very careful. And the student loan, you see, the system needs to be effective to be respected. Okay? Now, you said you go online. You said we can go to...
You go through your institution.
You go through the institution. Yeah. Why can't you go through your local government to go and pick the form and complete it? That is another thing. Because by so doing, and now look at
to the real people. Just get to the local government.
Will it get to the real people? Why not
go through the institution where you are registered?
That is, you see, that is it.
It's not even the institution.
I'm just asking.
It's through the portal because
there's a portal,
in order to reduce corruption, they don't want a human
if you go through the local government, will they get to the right people?
Won't we say the local governments are...
Look, don't forget, if you pick the form at the local government, and you complete it. It's not the local government that will disburse the money. You fill the form, you send it to wherever their headquarters is, and it will be processed. And then if there's any corruption and what have you, they can deal with it that way. You see, the nut and bolt of what I'm trying to say is this. Let's get ordinary people to be involved. Let them know what you are doing. You see, if there is no communication, yes, you see, I take your point, but take my point. My point is that if the representatives you are talking about are working, if things are in order, you see, are we going to have the situation we are in, where people will go on the streets and start protesting? So that means something is wrong somewhere, and we need to carry out a robust review and fine-tune things. So that we know, look, Veronica, it's one thing to stay in Lagos. I meet ordinary people in all these villages. If you go there, they don't even know. And let's say, I think you support that point, you mentioned it, that they don't know what is going on. So that communication strategy, and there are people who are experts. Look, in those days, when we were younger, this Ministry of Information, they will come to the village, show the film, and see the opportunity to tell you this and that.
I believe that the points have been taken by those in authority who know that this is being channeled towards them. We must thank you, gentlemen, because our time is up now and we need to wrap up this conversation. lawyer, Olufemi Aino, and politician. Thank you for your time on the program, as well as Executive Director, Center for Social and Economic Rights, Nelson Ekujumi. Thank you.
Thank you
so much for your time, gentlemen. All right, finally on the show, we went to the street.